Many investors have been tempted to look at slightly wackier investments in recent years, as traditional investments have stopped performing quite as well. Bonds and equities are a lot trickier to make money out of these days than they were maybe 10, 20 years ago. So which of the stranger, more esoteric investments should you look at? Well, I've picked three. So one of the first investments I'm going to look at is whiskey. Now, Scotch on its own makes up a quarter of all the UK's food and drink exports, and global sales are rising every year. And even when there are markets that might tank, such as China after the bribery laws were changed, Brazil picked up the slack. So you're seeing a lot of consistency there in the market. How do you invest in whiskey? There are a few different options. There is one platform called Whiskey Direct Invest, which lets investors get involved in the whiskey market for the first time and trade. It's a pretty liquid market there, pardon the pun. And then there's a new exchange-traded fund, which has been created letting investors back many whiskey-making companies, such as Diageo, which makes Johnny Walker, and the parent company of Jack Daniels. There's also a few whiskey funds out there, but most of them are offshore, which means your investment may not be protected. So the second investment I'm going to look at is Lego, which astonishingly has actually beaten equities and gold in terms of rises in value since the year 2000. And in 2016, the top sets actually rose in value by 36%. So if you'd bought a set in January, sat on it, you could have sold it for 36% more now. The great thing about Lego, it's easy to get into the market because you can buy these sets from any toy shop, you can buy them online. The only thing is you do have to hang on to them for a while, and they may not rise in value for 5 years, sometimes even 10 years, which means you have to be able to store them properly. You can't let your toddlers play with them because that will instantly slash the value. The only other thing to bear in mind, reissues. If Lego brings out another Star Wars Death Star, then all the ones that are in circulation now and rising in value may fall, but it's a gamble that many investors are happy to take. My third wacky investment is forests. Now, this is a particularly interesting niche because over the last 5 years, the value of this market has risen 200% according to Savills and Scottish Woodlands. Now, the reason this is so interesting is because you make money two ways. You make money from the appreciation of the land that the forest is on and from timber production. Investors really like this niche because it's tax benign, meaning there's no tax to pay. The government has incentivized you by cutting all the tax so that you will wait sometimes 60 years for your trees to be big enough to cut down, basically. What's particularly interesting at the moment as well is that in a post-Brexit world with a weaker pound, a lot of people are looking to buy their timber from the UK rather than pay higher costs to import. So it's a pretty good time to be owning forests right now. These are just a few of the wacky investments that I had fun looking at for this book. There are many others out there as investors try and move away from equities and bonds, the traditional asset classes. So there's a lot more out there if you're keen to find out more.